I hope you're all out there having the best day possible, and as always, I appreciate you taking a bit of time out of that day to actually watch one of my videos. And if you're unaware, I have a silver giveaway ending in just 2 days from now, so if you haven't already entered, just go on the video that's linked in the pinned comment below, leave a comment saying that you'd like to be in, and you'll get a chance to win one of 2 different prizes. And if you're a content creator, you can actually make a video shouting out the channel if you have at least 50 subscribers and get entered into a separate contest as well. But with that being said, what I actually wanted to discuss in this video is the top 3 reasons that you should start buying junk silver if you're not already doing so. And I know if you're someone who really likes collecting high premium silver, it's going to be a lot harder to convince you, but I do think you'll actually appreciate the last point on this list even more than the average silver stacker does. But with that being said, the first point I wanted to make is for the vast majority of stackers watching this video, myself included. Well, I guess making the video, but it's just the fact that you'll be able to buy more silver per dollar spent than with any other method that I can think of, at least right now, because silver premiums are a lot higher than they've been really historically for a long time. I mean, American Silver Eagles, you're actually spending like 30 or 35% of your money just on the premiums if you buy from a big company at least, and they're not exactly super cheap on eBay either. But to be fair, that is a really easy comparison to use that makes junk silver look quite good. I actually wanted to compare it to generic bullion, both of these sales being on APMEX, and to be fair, their 90% constitutional silver does appear to have a higher premium than buying their most cheap generic bullion actually does, because you can buy from the secondary market to get even more of a discount, and it actually works out to be, if you were to buy 8 ounces of silver through their secondary market generic bullion rounds versus buying a full roll of silver quarters, which will be about the same cost, a few dollars apart, but I figured it's pretty fair to compare it that way, you would actually be paying a 21% premium on the quarters and just a 15% premium on the generic bullion. So I know that sounds really bad, obviously, because it's like, well, what's the point of this video at all? You're completely wrong. And I am definitely surprised to see it actually works out that way. However, those rolls are not quite what I would call junk silver. They're not cold coins or anything like that. I know for a fact that if you have the right connections, you can actually buy even decent looking junk silver for really cheap prices. I will be unboxing this entire lot of silver in a few days for you guys, but I actually paid melt value shipped on this because the guy was able to buy it at a really good time himself. But even if you don't have connections like that, here's actually an example I do want to make, because there is a cheaper way to buy silver than either of the 2 things I mentioned, and it does fall back to some true good old-fashioned junk silver when you're willing to go below 90%, because silver war nickels actually contain 35% silver and Kennedy half dollars contain 40% silver, and these coins actually have the lowest premium of anything I've seen on APMEX for just buying the most silver for your buck. The Kennedy half dollar rolls were under 10% premium, and then I think it was like 9.8% it worked out to be, and then the silver war nickels were just over 10%, it was like 10.2%, and I assume the reason that the premium is a little higher on the nickels is just because you're buying less at a time, but either one of these methods actually allows you to get even cheaper silver than buying the generic bullion from them. You also have to keep in mind they have an extremely limited supply on that generic bullion right now. You'd actually have to wait for the order to ship out, because since it is so cheap, there is an incredibly high demand on it, and that price might not always be available if that demand continues to go up. But there is not very much desire for, especially sub 90% constitutional silver, some really good old yeah, I can't even speak now, some really good true old-fashioned junk silver for you guys. Definitely will get you the lowest premiums, even if you're buying from major companies. And again, I was able to pay for everything, including that piece dollar and Franklin half dollar melt value from a guy on Instagram. But I do know a lot of you guys out there will never really feel comfortable with the idea of buying silver from people on Instagram, which is completely fair. But I do just want to point out that I actually looked up some recently completed auctions on eBay, and I found that rolls of silver quarters were selling for a little bit of a lower premium than what APMEX has, even on their cheapest generic bullion. It was around 14, 13, and I even saw a couple that were as low as like 12% if you happen to buy a couple rolls in the auction. So there are actually other ways to even get silver cheaper that actual really low cost option that APMEX does have on generic bullion. And if you were going to buy specifically generic silver bullion, I mean, that actually might be one of the best options out there. I think APMEX is able to sell it so cheap because they actually are buying it from this. When they say secondary market, I'm pretty sure what that means is it's actually when you have that option to sell your silver back to them. I'm pretty sure it's the silver that they're buying that way, and since they're getting a pretty good discount on it, they're still paying a pretty fair price, but definitely cheaper than what they might normally get from the distributor. They're able to then pass on those savings to the consumer a little bit, But however they're able to do it, that is some of the cheapest generic bullion I've ever really seen. I mean, even on eBay, generic bullion has more like a 20-ish% premium as opposed to that 15%. So definitely hats off to them for providing a deal like that. And I do want to recognize when a big company actually is offering something that I think is a little bit impressive. But after just having edited that first part of the video, it wasn't even hard for me to find two different auctions that ended today on eBay, both of which providing lower premiums on 90% silver quarters than what Amex provides on that generic bullion, by a pretty large margin, might I add. I mean, that one deal was like 2%, which is just absolutely insane. Even though you did have to buy 4 rolls, it still is a much lower premium than you're going to find on any generic bullion out there. So I definitely think the point that you can buy junk silver overall for a cheaper price, as long as you're willing to go past the big silver companies, definitely is a very fair one to say. And even if you are just absolutely stuck with Atmex, you can at least turn to that 35 and 40% silver to still get a better price than anywhere else. Well, on the website at least. But to get into the second point finally now, and I'm sorry that dragged on so long, I just really wanted to back up everything I was saying with some good evidence. But to get into the second point finally, I think that buying junk silver also offers you a great amount of flexibility when it comes to silver stacking in general. Because if you only have a stack with larger pieces of silver, if you ever have a situation come up where you're forced to sell, chances are you're probably selling at a loss at this point. I'm talking a financial obligation hits, silver hasn't gotten a move in price at all, and now you're going to have to actually sell it to someone who's willing to take it off your hands really quickly, so you're probably going to have to sell it a little bit cheaper than what you paid. You don't want to sell any more silver than necessary in this type of situation, but if you only have larger pieces of silver, where you might have been able to sell 3.5 bars to get the money that you needed, you're not going to cut your silver bar in half. Let's be realistic for just 1 second. You're selling 4 silver bars now, and that's literally 12.5% more silver than you would have needed to sell if you had some junk silver in your stack as well. Because with this, all you need to do is maybe go $1, $1.50 over, because with silver dimes, you're talking $2 of value a piece versus 10-ounce bars would be like $280 of value a piece, just as an example. So actually having this in your stack, if it ever comes time to sell because of an emergency, you can do so without losing any more silver than necessary. And beyond that, if you're looking to give out gifts this year, it's a lot easier to do so by just buying a large bag of mixed constitutional silver, especially if you're trying to get some kids into silver, because they're going to find old silver coins, more fascinating than generic bullion generally, and that can actually inspire some younger members of your family to create generational wealth for themselves the way that you're trying to do. And beyond that, you're not forced to go up $30 incrementally on the gift per ounce of silver that you're buying. Like if you wanted to buy them a certain amount of ounce silver bar, you'd have to spend $30 more just to increase the size of the bar. Versus with these, throwing in a couple more silver dimes, that might only be $3 more. Again, a lot more flexibility just by having some junk silver in your stack. And overall, if you ever want to break it up into smaller lots, you can really easily do that. And on top of everything else, if you ever do want to sell it and actually make a profit based on silver going up a lot since you bought it, like let's say silver went down a ton, you bought a bunch of junk silver and then silver actually went way up, you would actually not have to worry about recuperating nearly as much of a premium as you would have to by having bought generic bullion, or especially American Silver Eagles. Because the thing is, big silver companies can sell that to you with a huge premium on it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can go and get that same premium on eBay. Because silver premiums are not universal the way that silver spot price is, meaning that the closer to spot price that you're buying, if silver actually goes up a lot and you are someone that's looking to potentially make a little bit of profit, you can now actually get the most amount of money possible out of that silver price increase. And at the same time, talking about flexibility even more with selling, you can sell off an exact amount of silver in case you want to hold on to a certain amount, believing that, silver might go up more, or believing that you might need to hold on to some for another reason. Whatever it may be, you just have way more flexibility with junk silver overall. And the reason I said collectors might really appreciate this last point in particular is because of the fact that junk silver is some of the least likely to ever be faked, because it's just not really worth it to do so. Especially if you're looking at smaller denominations, are you going to go for the effort of creating a fake silver dime that actually looks passable in order to make a $2 sale? Or are you going to create hundreds of these fake coins to sell as a lot and actually make any kind of decent profit? Unless you have a huge amount of money to invest to recreate an operation, even on a smaller scale, it would still be expensive to do so, as to what an actual coin press has. you're going to have to create these coins by hand or stamp them by hand, and then you're going to have to also create stamps that actually match those that the US Mint uses. It would just be a very difficult thing to do, all in order to make a very small amount of profit. I mean, you would have to keep your costs extremely low for your margins to not be you just losing money on each coin. I know people will fake even 1 ounce silver bars, and people find that already surprising, but imagine faking like $2 of silver. I just don't really see people necessarily doing that. And I know there is the potential for people to maybe take newer coins and like acid wash the date off and try to like manipulate it in that way, but I can't imagine anyone passively doing that without you being able to tell something was wrong. And I know with most coins, you can actually look at the rim to even tell if they're going to be silver or not. That's not always a surefire way, but if you ever check out any coin hunters, they can actually kind of show you how to do this. And I should say coin roll hunters. So it's not too hard to actually notice if it is a clad US coin that someone has just tried to alter to make look like a 90% silver coin. And beyond that, going through the process of fully creating one, or like creating a coin and then casting it with silver like as a plating or something, that just would not really be worth it to do, versus faking a 10-ounce silver bar, that would certainly be worth it to do. So I hope you do understand my point there. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to get fake silver coins, but people are going to want to fake silver numismatics, coins that are actually going to have a high value over what their silver content is, because again, faking silver dimes and even quarters and such, you're not going to have any kind of a margin on that compared to the amount of money that you're going to have to invest in the first place just to get a realistic operation set up to fake US coins, because the details on them are much more intricate than what you'll see on, for example, a Sunshine Mint 1 ounce generic bar. With that being said though, I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit longer, but I do hope that the length was worth it. With that being said though, if you did find yourself enjoying the information, actually subscribing to the channel, liking the video, and commenting with it to show engagement, these are all things you can help to do to actually boost it in the algorithm and make sure that some other silver stackers out there will see it as well. I really appreciate the people who came to actually watch my storytime video. I saw the impression click-through rate was like 11.8% or something, which is really high even by YouTube standards. So I really do appreciate the fact that the silver community is so open to new types of content as well, and I will keep that in mind. With that all being said though, peace